The galaxy was full of strange and dangerous worlds, but there was one that few knew about. It was a planet hidden from most travelers, cloaked in shadows and secrets. On this world, in the heart of a forgotten empire, lived a princess. Her name was never spoken aloud, and her face was never shown. She was an enigma, a mystery even to the people who lived closest to her. Her palace stood tall, made of dark stone that shimmered in the light of distant stars. It looked as though it had been abandoned for centuries. There was no one to challenge her rule, but there was also no one who seemed to care. Her own people avoided her, treating her more like a legend than a living being. She was a figure shrouded in darkness, and that darkness was exactly what kept everyone away. They feared the unknown, feared what they couldn't understand. Why did the princess hide her face? No one knew. Some whispered that her appearance was too terrible to behold, while others believed she was hiding something even worse, an ancient power, a curse, or a dark secret that could destroy everything. The rumors were endless, but none of them could explain why no one ever dared to choose her, even though she was the rightful heir to her throne. For years, the princess lived alone in her palace. She spent her days locked away in her chambers, gazing out at the stars, wondering if anyone would ever come for her. It wasn't that she lacked beauty or grace. In fact, it was said that she was unlike any other being in the galaxy, with features so mesmerizing that even the most powerful beings could hardly look away. But her beauty was overshadowed by the fear that surrounded her. The galaxy's leaders, those who controlled the most powerful planets and empires, avoided her like the plague. They could have taken her as a powerful ally, a queen to rule alongside them, but none dared to. They could not understand why no one could get close to her. What was it about this princess that made every ruler turn away? On the other side of the galaxy, a human soldier named Alex was about to discover the truth. He had no idea that he would soon cross paths with this hidden princess. All he knew was that he was on a mission that would bring him closer to the heart of this mysterious planet. But what he didn't realize was that this mission wasn't just about a simple diplomatic task. It was about uncovering a secret that would change the fate of the galaxy. And as Alex made his way to this forgotten world, the princess watched from her palace, her heart heavy with both longing and fear. For the first time in years, she felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this human would be different. He would be the one who would finally look beyond her mask and see her for who she truly was. But as the stars glimmered in the distance, she couldn't help but wonder. Would he be the one to choose her, or would he, too, be afraid of the darkness that surrounded her? The princess's story was just beginning, and no one knew how it would end. Alex had seen many strange worlds in his time as a soldier, but none were like this. As his ship descended through the thick atmosphere, the planet beneath him seemed more like a ghostly relic than a thriving civilization. The surface was a mix of ruins and forgotten cities, and there was a cold silence that hung over everything. The planet didn't look like a place anyone would want to visit, let alone live. He'd been sent on a diplomatic mission. The higher-ups had told him it was important, but they never really explained why. A simple assignment, they had said. But as Alex stepped off the shuttle, the chill in the air told him that something wasn't quite right. His boots clicked softly against the ground as he walked towards the entrance of the palace. The towering structure in front of him was intimidating, made of dark stone, and decorated with ancient symbols. There were no guards, no bustling courtiers, just silence. And yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He pushed the heavy doors open and stepped inside. The hallway was dimly lit, with long, towering columns casting shadows on the marble floor. The silence was suffocating, and the air felt thick with something he couldn't place, an energy, perhaps, or an unsettling presence that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. He had faced countless dangers in battle, but nothing had ever made him feel quite like this. As he moved deeper into the palace, he began to hear soft footsteps echoing in the distance. They were faint, yet distinct, as if someone was waiting for him. The sound grew louder, closer. Then she appeared. The alien princess stepped into view, her face hidden by a delicate veil that shimmered in the dim light. Her figure was graceful, yet powerful, like a queen who had long ago learned to command the attention of anyone who crossed her path. Alex's heart skipped a beat as his eyes tried to make sense of her appearance. Even though her face was hidden, the aura around her was undeniable. She exuded an energy unlike anything he had ever encountered, a power that was both ancient and mysterious. She stood there, silent, watching him. Her eyes, hidden behind the veil, seemed to pierce right through him, as if she could see everything about him without ever speaking a word. For a moment, neither of them moved. Alex could feel the tension in the air, the weight of an unspoken history between them. But it wasn't fear he felt, it was curiosity. Something about her drew him in, made him want to know more. She was a mystery, and mysteries always had a way of pulling him closer. Finally, the princess spoke. Her voice was soft, like a melody, but there was an undeniable strength in it. "You've come. But why? What does your mission really mean for this world?" Alex hesitated, unsure how to respond. "I was sent here to speak with you, to learn about your people, your needs, your planet. But it seems," he trailed off, struggling to find the right words. "It seems like no one really talks about you. You're hidden." Her gaze remained steady. "Do you fear the unknown, soldier? Do you fear the things you cannot understand?" Alex's mind raced. No one had ever asked him that before. He wasn't sure how to answer, but there was something in her tone that made him pause. This wasn't just a diplomatic mission. It was something much bigger, something more personal. He had come here to learn about her, but now he realized that he was the one who needed to be understood. "I don't fear the unknown," Alex replied, meeting her gaze. "I just want to understand." The princess took a step closer. "Then you will learn. But be warned, human. Not everything is as it seems on this planet. Not everything is as simple as it appears." Alex frowned. There it was again. The same cryptic warning. The same feeling that he was standing on the edge of something far greater than he could comprehend. But before he could ask more questions, she turned, her movements graceful and fluid. "Come with me," she said, her voice laced with both command and invitation. "There is much you must learn. But be prepared. What you find here will change everything." As she led him deeper into the palace, Alex couldn't help but wonder, what exactly was hidden behind her veil? And why did she, the princess, seem so different from the other beings he had encountered in the galaxy? For the first time, he had a feeling that this mission wasn't just about diplomacy. It was about uncovering the truth. The truth about the princess. And the truth about the dark secret she carried. Alex followed the princess through the winding corridors of the palace. The deeper they went, the more the atmosphere shifted. The air felt colder, heavier, as if they were moving into the heart of something ancient. The walls around them were lined with faded tapestries and strange symbols, symbols that Alex didn't recognize. The further they walked, the more he began to feel that this palace was more than just a home for royalty. It was a place of power, and perhaps a prison. The princess led him to a large chamber at the end of the hallway. It was unlike any room Alex had ever seen. The walls were lined with what appeared to be ancient alien technology, glowing panels, strange devices, and data streams that seemed to pulse with energy. In the center of the room was a large, ornate chair made of a material that shimmered like liquid metal. It was a throne, but it wasn't a throne of power. It looked more like a throne of memories, of something long forgotten. The princess stopped before the chair, turning to face Alex. Her veil fluttered slightly, as if caught by a breeze that didn't exist in the room. For the first time since meeting her, Alex could see her eyes, sharp, piercing, yet full of sorrow. There was a deep sadness behind them, a sadness that seemed to have lived for centuries. She wasn't just hiding her face, she was hiding her soul. "Sit," she said softly, gesturing to the chair. "You must understand what has happened here, what has been hidden from the galaxy." Alex hesitated, his mind still racing with questions. What do you mean? What's been hidden? All I've heard are rumors, stories about your face, about your people. But no one seems to know anything for sure. The princess sighed, her eyes falling to the ground. She looked like someone who had carried a heavy burden for far too long. The truth is, my people, my empire, we were once rulers of this galaxy. We controlled worlds, manipulated the stars, and bent the laws of time itself. We were the most advanced race in the universe. Alex's brow furrowed. Then what happened? Her gaze lifted, locking onto his with an intensity that made his heart race. We grew too powerful. Greed took over. And then, something worse happened. A power beyond even our control emerged, an entity older than time itself. It tore through my people, breaking our minds and bodies. My family, my bloodline. I was the last of them. She stepped closer to the throne, her fingers brushing lightly against the cold metal. I was chosen to carry the legacy of my people, to rule and rebuild. But I wasn't like the others. I was different, and that difference made me a target. My face was hidden, not because of how I look, but because of what I carry within me. The power I possess is the very reason I was left alone. It's a power that could destroy everything. Alex's mind struggled to grasp the magnitude of what she was saying. So, you're saying you were the heir to this powerful empire, but your own people abandoned you because of what you are? Yes, she replied quietly. I was seen as a threat, a danger to the galaxy, to my people. And so, they chose to lock me away. My face, my true identity, is a symbol of the destruction that could come if I ever unleash the power within me. Alex was silent for a moment, trying to make sense of it all. But why didn't you leave? Why didn't you escape to find help? The princess turned away, her back to him as she gazed at the distant stars through the tall windows. I can't. I am bound here, Alex, to the power, to my bloodline, to the responsibility I was born with. I cannot run from who I am, no matter how much I wish I could. Alex felt a sense of empathy for her. She was not the cold, distant ruler that the galaxy had whispered about. She was a prisoner, trapped by her own destiny. But there was one thing he couldn't understand. Then why did you let me in? Why did you show yourself to me, a human? You could have kept hiding. She finally turned to face him again, her eyes filled with uncertainty. Because you are different. I sense something in you, Alex. Something that may allow me to unlock the truth without destroying everything. Maybe you can help me. Maybe you can be the one who sees me for what I am, not what I was made to be. Alex felt the weight of her words sink in. This wasn't just about a forgotten princess or a lost empire. This was about something far greater, a power that could change the very fabric of the galaxy. And now, somehow, he was at the center of it all. You want me to help you? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. The princess nodded slowly. Yes, you are the key, Alex. You may be the only one who can help me control this power, and perhaps prevent another catastrophe. But first, you must understand the cost, the danger of what we're dealing with. If we fail, the galaxy will suffer, and I will be the one to bring about its destruction. Alex took a deep breath, his mind still spinning. He didn't know how he could possibly help her, but one thing was clear. He couldn't turn back now. The stakes were too high, and the mystery of the alien princess was only beginning to unfold. But as they stood in the dim light of the chamber, Alex couldn't help but wonder, what would happen if he did help her? Would he be able to control the power she wielded, or would they both be consumed by it? The answers were closer than he thought, but they were more dangerous than he could ever imagine. The princess's words echoed in Alex's mind as they stood in the shadow of her throne room. The weight of what she had just revealed felt suffocating. He was no longer just a soldier on a mission. He was now involved in something far greater, something that could alter the fate of entire worlds. He glanced at her, still struggling to comprehend everything. The power she spoke of, The ancient entity that had torn through her people, the legacy of destruction that ran through her veins, was more than any battle he had fought in. This wasn't a war of armies or weapons. It was a war of the soul, a struggle between light and darkness, one that had been quietly simmering for millennia. "I didn't ask for this," the princess whispered, her voice filled with a quiet sadness. "I didn't ask to be born with this power, but it is mine to bear. And now, you must help me control it." Alex's stomach tightened at the thought. Control it? How am I supposed to help you control something that powerful? The princess gave a faint smile, though it held no humor. "You may not be able to control it yourself, but you can help me unlock what's hidden inside. You see, this power isn't just mine. It's part of an ancient bond, one that can only be activated by someone who is not of my bloodline. You, Alex, you are the key to that bond." Alex blinked, confusion written across his face. "I'm the key. How could I?" Before he could finish his sentence, a low rumble filled the room. The ground beneath their feet trembled as if some great force was stirring. The princess's eyes widened in alarm. "We're not alone," she said urgently, moving toward the far wall. Her hand reached for a hidden control panel, and with a hiss, a door slid open to reveal a stairwell leading down into darkness. "We must leave. Now." Alex didn't need to be told twice. He followed her as she led the way down the stairs, the silence of the palace broken only by the echo of their footsteps. The further they descended, the darker and colder the air became. The flickering lights barely illuminated their path, casting long, eerie shadows on the walls. "What's happening?" Alex asked, his voice tense with unease. "What is that noise?" The princess's face was grim as she glanced back at him. "It's them. The ones who follow me, who seek to destroy everything I've tried to protect." Alex's heart skipped a beat. "Who are they?" "The entities from the darkness," she answered. "They are remnants of the ancient power that ravaged my people. They have followed me across the stars, always lurking in the shadows, waiting for me to weaken. And now, they've found me again." As they reached the bottom of the stairs, they stepped into a large chamber. The walls were lined with strange symbols and ancient technology, the same glowing panels Alex had seen earlier, but much older. The room seemed to pulse with energy, faint, almost imperceptible, but still undeniably there. The princess moved swiftly toward a large console in the center of the room. "We need to activate the chamber," she said, her voice urgent. "Only then can I stop them from reaching us." Alex watched in confusion as she typed commands into the console, her fingers moving quickly. But then the rumble they had heard earlier intensified. The walls seemed to vibrate, and the very air around them began to crackle with tension. A deep guttural growl echoed from above, sending a chill down Alex's spine. "They're here," the princess whispered. "I knew they were coming, but I wasn't prepared for them to arrive so soon." A dark figure emerged from the shadows of the far corner of the chamber, its shape unclear but menacing. It was tall, humanoid, with a twisted, glowing energy emanating from its body. The figure seemed to warp in and out of reality, flickering like an illusion, but its presence was real and terrifying. The princess turned sharply, her eyes locked on the figure. "Stay behind me, Alex. Do not engage unless I say so." The dark figure moved forward, its form solidifying into a more recognizable shape. It was an ancient creature, one of the dark entities that had ravaged the princess's people all those years ago. Its body was covered in black, shimmering armor that seemed to absorb the light around it. Its eyes were voids, empty, endless black holes that seemed to gaze straight into Alex's soul. "You cannot hide from us forever, princess." A cold voice echoed from the creature, its words distorted and unnatural. "You cannot escape your fate." The princess stepped forward, her hand raised as if to hold off the creature. "You won't destroy me again," she said, her voice shaking with both anger and fear. "I won't let you. I will fight." The air around her seemed to ripple as an energy field began to form, crackling with power. The creature recoiled, its eyes narrowing in what could have been disbelief. "You think you can stop us?" it growled. "You are nothing but a shadow of what you once were. The power you carry is mine to control, and I will take it from you." The princess's eyes flashed with a fierce determination. "Not today," she said. "This time, I will be the one to control the power." But the creature's voice echoed once more. "You are not the one who holds the key, princess. That human, he is the one who will either save you or destroy everything." Alex felt a surge of fear and confusion. "Me? I'm just a soldier. What does he mean?" The princess turned to him, her face serious. "You are the key to unlocking the power inside me, Alex. If you don't help me control it, we will both be consumed by it." The dark entity growled, taking a step forward. "We will see who controls what, princess." The room pulsed with energy, and Alex knew that this was just the beginning. Whatever lay ahead, he was no longer just a soldier. He was tied to this battle, and the choices he made now would decide not only his fate but the fate of the galaxy. And as the creature lunged forward, everything went black. The darkness engulfed Alex, the room's light flickering out like a dying star. The air seemed to thicken, pressing against his chest, squeezing the breath from his lungs. He could feel the presence of the dark entity growing stronger, its malevolent energy filling the room like a storm. The princess stood before him, her form glowing faintly with the energy she was trying to summon to protect them. But even her powers seemed strained, struggling to hold back the force of the creature. The creature's cold, distorted voice broke through the silence like a knife. "You cannot run from destiny, princess. Your power is mine to claim." Alex's heart pounded in his chest. What had he gotten himself into? He had come to this world on a simple mission, unaware that his actions would bring him to the center of an ancient war between light and darkness. Now it was clear that the stakes were higher than he could ever have imagined. The princess stepped forward, her body shuddering with the strain of holding back the dark entity. "I won't let you take me again. I am not the princess you once knew. I will not let you destroy everything." The creature let out a laugh, hollow and echoing. "You cannot change what you are, princess. You are a weapon, nothing more." Alex saw her falter, just for a moment. It was as if the weight of the creature's words had struck a chord deep inside her. For a fleeting second, doubt clouded her fierce gaze. But then Alex stepped forward, without fully understanding why. He knew that he couldn't let her face this alone. Not when she had already carried this burden for so long. He had to act, even if he wasn't sure how. "I'm not just a soldier," he said, his voice steady. "I'm with you. We'll figure this out together." The princess turned to him, surprise flashing in her eyes. But then a faint, almost imperceptible smile tugged at her lips. "You truly do not understand the danger, do you?" she asked, but there was no judgment in her voice, only the tiniest hint of relief. "I don't need to understand," Alex replied, his eyes locked on the dark entity. "All I need to know is that you're not alone in this. You're not the only one carrying a burden." The creature sneered, its form flickering with a dark, shimmering energy. "You are a fool, human. You cannot stop what is coming. You cannot stop me." Alex's hand instinctively moved to the side, reaching for his weapon, but the princess's hand shot out, stopping him. "No weapons, Alex," she said softly. "This isn't a battle of strength. It's a battle of will." With a deep breath, Alex closed his eyes for a moment. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a knight or a warrior with special powers. He was just a soldier, a man who had done his best to survive and protect others. But here, in this strange world, with the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance, he had to be more. The princess reached out to him, her fingers trembling slightly. "Trust me, Alex," she whispered. "You are the key to unlocking my power, but you must be strong. You must believe in me. Believe in us." Alex opened his eyes, meeting her gaze. In her eyes, he saw the same fear and doubt he had felt many times before in battle, But there was something else there too. Something deeper, something stronger. It was hope. "I believe in you," he said quietly, his voice filled with determination. "Now let's end this." With that, the princess placed her hand on his chest, her fingers touching the heart of his armor. A pulse of energy surged through them, a rush of power that made Alex's whole body feel as though it was being consumed by fire. He gasped, but he didn't pull away. He stood firm, feeling a connection between them, an ancient bond forming, the energy of the galaxy itself surging through him. The dark entity shrieked as it seemed to sense the shift in the room. It recoiled, its form flickering erratically. "No, this cannot be. You cannot control it." The princess closed her eyes, focusing all of her will on the energy that flowed between them. "I am not alone anymore, and neither are you." In that moment, the bond between Alex and the princess solidified, the power of their combined will pushing back the darkness. The energy surrounding the dark entity began to crack and distort, the darkness shrinking, unraveling before their eyes. The creature screamed in frustration, its body twisting, turning into a swirling mass of dark energy. It lashed out, but the princess held strong, her hand still on Alex's chest. The power coursing through them, fueled by their shared resolve, became a force that could not be stopped. "You cannot win," the creature hissed as it was torn apart by the combined power of their will. But Alex and the princess didn't waver. Together, they unleashed the power that had long been locked away, the ancient energy that had been buried beneath centuries of fear and darkness. It exploded outward, consuming the dark entity in a brilliant burst of light. The room shook, the walls cracking as if the very foundation of the palace were being torn apart. And then, with one final, blinding flash, everything went silent. Alex opened his eyes slowly, blinking against the aftereffects of the light. The room had changed. The oppressive weight of darkness was gone, replaced by a strange calm. The princess stood beside him, her face now clear, no longer hidden behind her veil. Her features were stunning, ethereal, and yet there was a deep sorrow in her eyes, a reminder of the price she had paid. "We did it," Alex said, his voice filled with awe. The princess nodded, though her expression remained somber. "The darkness is gone for now. But this is only the beginning. The power within me is not something that can be easily controlled. There will be others who seek it, who want to harness it for themselves." Alex looked at her, understanding dawning on him. "And we'll be ready." She smiled, a rare, genuine smile that softened her features. "Yes, together, we'll be ready for whatever comes next." But even as the room settled into peace, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that their fight was far from over. The galaxy was vast, and the shadows of the past had a way of creeping back when least expected. The princess had warned him. The power within her could change everything. And now, they would have to face the consequences of that power, together. The silence in the aftermath of their battle was almost unsettling. Alex stood still, his chest rising and falling with the remnants of the intense power they had unleashed. The princess stood beside him, her presence no longer veiled by the haunting darkness that had once surrounded her. Her eyes were filled with a strange mix of relief and uncertainty. For a moment, Alex allowed himself to breathe, to let the adrenaline of the battle wear off. The dark entity that had threatened to consume them was gone, its twisted form shattered by the power they had summoned together. The palace, once vibrating with dark energy, now felt strangely calm. The oppressive weight that had hung over the room was gone, but in its place was a new tension, a quiet anticipation. "We did it," Alex murmured, but the words felt hollow, as if they didn't quite match the depth of the situation. The princess didn't answer right away. She stood, her gaze fixed on the spot where the dark entity had once stood, her mind clearly far away. After a long pause, she spoke, her voice low and filled with something Alex couldn't quite place. "This was only the first battle," she said quietly. The darkness may have been defeated here, but its influence is still out there. Alex, it's only a matter of time before others come, others who seek to harness the power I hold. Alex turned to her, sensing the weight of her words. So the fight isn't over? No, she replied, shaking her head. The dark forces that once ravaged my people are not gone. They're merely lying in wait, watching for a moment of weakness. And now, they know that I have unlocked the power within me. They won't stop until they control it. Alex clenched his fists. Then we won't stop either. We'll keep fighting, together. She looked at him, her eyes softening. I knew you would say that. I've spent so long hiding from my fate, hiding from my own power. But with you, Alex, I feel like maybe, just maybe, I don't have to face it alone. His heart clenched at the vulnerability in her voice. He had seen many soldiers in his time, but none like her. She was a princess, yes, but she was also a fighter, a survivor who had been forced into a position that few could ever understand. Now she was no longer running from her destiny, and neither was he. But as the princess continued to gaze out over the empty chamber, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this victory, as hard-earned as it was, came with an even greater challenge. They had beaten one dark entity, but how many more were out there? How long before the galaxy's deepest secrets began to unravel? The princess seemed to read his thoughts, her voice cutting through his uncertainty. The ancient power within me is something that cannot be controlled easily. But with you by my side, we may stand a chance against those who wish to take it. The bond we share, it's unlike anything I've ever felt before. Alex nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. Then what do we do next? She turned to him, her eyes flashing with determination. We move forward. I'll need your help to learn more about the powers that are inside me. We'll need to track down those who are still hunting for me and stop them before they can get any closer. But we don't know where they are, Alex said. How do we find them? The princess's eyes narrowed as she looked toward a far wall of the chamber. A holographic display flickered to life in the corner, showing a map of the galaxy. The stars seemed to stretch out before them, their constellations connected by bright lines. I've been tracking them for years, she explained. I may not have been able to stop them before, but I've kept watch. I know where they are, and I know where they plan to strike next. The hologram zoomed in on a distant star system, its stars burning with a harsh, unnatural light. This is where the next confrontation will take place. The darkness I've been fighting, its roots run deep there. I can feel it, like a pulse in the galaxy. Alex studied the map, his brow furrowed. The location looked like it was on the edge of known space, far from the core planets. It was the kind of place where danger thrived, far from the watchful eyes of the Galactic Council. We'll need to gather a crew, he said. We can't take them on alone. The princess nodded. Agreed, but not just any crew. We need people who understand the stakes, who have faced battles like this before. Alex's mind immediately went to his own network of contacts, soldiers, and pilots from his past missions. He had fought alongside some of the toughest people in the galaxy, people who had their own scars, their own reasons for fighting. But this battle was different. It was not just a fight for survival. It was a fight for the very balance of the galaxy. We'll need to prepare, Alex said. Weapons, ships, supplies. We don't know what we're walking into. The princess met his gaze, her expression hardening. We won't just prepare for battle. We'll prepare to face the unknown. I've spent too long hiding from what I am. But no more. The power inside me, together with your strength, we can do this. With those words, the air in the chamber seemed to crackle once more, this time with a sense of purpose, a sense of destiny. They were no longer running from the past. They were stepping into the future, ready to face whatever darkness awaited them, together. And as they turned to leave the chamber, the stars outside the palace windows seemed to pulse brighter, as if acknowledging the beginning of a new chapter in their journey, one that would either save or shatter the galaxy. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The fight for the galaxy's survival had only just begun, and he would not face it alone. The princess had given him her trust. Now, it was time for him to prove that he was worthy of it. The journey was no longer a choice. It was their only path forward. As Alex and the princess prepared to leave the safety of the palace and venture into the unknown, the weight of their mission settled heavily on their shoulders. They were no longer just two individuals bound by circumstance. Together, they were a force, a partnership forged by an ancient power and a shared purpose. Yet, even with this newfound bond, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a storm far greater than they could fully understand. The princess had already begun making arrangements, calling in favors, and reaching out to trusted allies. Alex, in turn, started gathering resources, ships, weapons, supplies, and most importantly, people who would fight beside them. He was no longer just a soldier. He was a leader, a crucial part of something far larger than himself. But before they could leave, there was one more thing the princess had to do, something she had been avoiding, something that weighed on her more than anything else. She had to face the truth about her past. Alex stood beside her in the dimly lit room, watching as she stood in front of a holographic console. The faint blue glow of the display illuminated her face, casting long shadows across her features. She was staring at something, but Alex couldn't make out what it was. He could sense the tension in the air, the hesitation that lingered like a thick fog. "I have to do this," the princess whispered, more to herself than to him. "I have to know what they want from me." Alex stepped closer, his voice soft but firm. "You don't have to do this alone. Whatever it is, I'm here." She didn't turn to look at him, but the way her shoulders relaxed slightly told him she had heard him. She had always carried her burden alone, always had to. Now, for the first time, she was willing to share it. With a deep breath, the princess tapped a series of commands into the console. The screen flickered, and images began to appear, old recordings, fragments of memories, cryptic symbols that danced across the holographic interface. Alex watched as the images shifted and changed, his mind racing as he tried to make sense of what was unfolding before him. The princess's face remained emotionless, but her eyes glinted with an intensity that Alex had never seen before. She was looking at her past, searching for answers. He could feel the weight of it, the crushing need for closure, for understanding. Finally, the images stopped on a single frame, an old recording of a massive, shadowy figure standing on a throne. The figure's eyes gleamed with cold malice, and the air around it seemed to shimmer with dark energy. "This is him," the princess said, her voice barely audible. "The one who started it all." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't need to ask who he was. The ancient enemy, the one who had destroyed her people, who had left scars that could never fully heal. And now he was returning. "The one who tore my world apart," she continued, her voice low with a mix of anger and sorrow. "The one who wanted my power, who believed that controlling me would give him everything." Alex felt a surge of determination, a fire igniting inside him. This wasn't just her battle anymore. It was theirs. "We're going to stop him," Alex said firmly, his eyes locked with hers. "Whatever it takes." She turned to face him then, her eyes softening for a moment. "And we will. Together." But just as the words left her lips, the holographic display flickered again, and a new message appeared. It was faint at first, a distortion in the transmission that grew clearer as the seconds passed. Alex felt a knot tighten in his stomach as the message resolved. It was from a familiar voice, one that sent a chill down his spine. "Princess," the voice echoed, distorted but unmistakable. "I know what you're planning, but it's too late. The darkness is already in motion. You cannot stop what's coming. You cannot escape me." The princess's expression darkened as the voice continued, the words laced with venom. "You are nothing but a shadow of your former self. You will never escape your fate. And this time, you won't have the strength to fight." The message ended abruptly, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Alex's mind raced as he processed what he had just heard. The enemy was already moving. They hadn't even left yet, and the battle was already upon them. "Do you know who that was?" Alex asked, his voice tight with urgency. The princess nodded slowly. "It was him. The one who controls the darkness. The one who thinks he can break me." "We have to act fast," Alex said, his heart pounding in his chest. "They know where we are. They know what we're doing." The princess turned to him, her expression hardening with resolve. "We're not running from this anymore. We will face them head-on. We've come too far to turn back now." She reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder. "This fight isn't just for me, Alex. It's for all the worlds that have suffered because of him, all the lives that have been destroyed. We're not just stopping him. We're stopping the cycle from continuing." Alex nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle deep within him. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight for the future of the galaxy itself, and they couldn't afford to lose. "We're ready," Alex said, his voice steady with conviction. The princess gave a small nod, then turned toward the door. "Then let's go." Together, they walked out of the room and into the cold, unforgiving world outside. The galaxy was vast, and the road ahead was uncertain. But Alex knew one thing for sure. Whatever came next, they would face it together. They would fight, not just for themselves, but for the hope that they could end the darkness once and for all. And as they stepped into the unknown, the stars above seemed to burn brighter, as if the universe itself was watching, waiting to see what would come next.